right, welcome back to the Scarlet Faithful podcast. I'm Aaron Brightman. Added some technological wrinkles to the broadcast. If you're watching from video, working on some audio features as well. For those that listen to Apple and Spotify, thanks to all that do. Wanted to take this episode on Tuesday, December 5th, to talk about Rutgers-Wake Forest playing Wednesday night in Winston-Salem at 6 p.m. Eastern, airing live on ACC Network. Huge game for Rutgers. Just want to start by saying fans that are super down after Saturday against Illinois, I see a lot of doom and gloom out there. And obviously social media can exacerbate some of those reactions. And I don't think by any means it's the majority of the fan base. So I'm not trying to get carried away in that respect. But just remember expectations. We're only a month plus into the season. Illinois, they had high expectations going into the season. They're expected to go back to the NCAA tournament. They're expected to compete in the top four of the Big Ten. Their fan base is clamoring for a second weekend appearance. They've been really close before. They return a lot of stars. Terrence Shannon is one of the best players in the league. They have a lot of high expectations. Granted, Rutgers has owned them at the rack prior to Saturday. But listen, Rutgers right now, trending data-wise, they're in the middle of the pack of the Big Ten, which is where they were expected to be. They're even, picked by some to finish 11th. It's early. They haven't beaten anyone of note. I understand that causes concern. They've lost their two biggest tests, but there's a long way to go. And I think this is a key week for this team. This is a week for this team to make an active effort and decision to shape their season in a positive way by doing everything they can to win these two games. Because if you can win both these road games, it's great for analytics. We talked about the net rankings on Monday. Road wins are valued super high. Right now, these both fall in the quad 2 designation. In terms of KenPom, they're all kind of close to each other. Rutgers is 62nd right now. Wake Forest is 74th. Seton Hall on Saturday is 63rd. So these are two huge games for several reasons. But this is an opportunity for them to make a statement. I think it's actually a good thing. They're getting away from the rack. It's their first true road game of the season. Wake Forest, is there's never an easy road environment, but this is not like going into some of the tougher Big Ten environments, in my opinion. No disrespect intended there. And Wake Forest they're a dangerous offensive team. They can shoot, they can score in multiple ways. They have size, but they're not particularly physical. They're not a particularly strong defensive team, nor do they rebound particularly well. So this is an opportunity for Rutgers to really show that they can have the identity and the mindset, of teams that we've seen succeed under Steve Peichel in the past, and that's with defense and rebounding. I think they can be disruptive with the press. Wake Forest has a pretty good point guard in Kevin Miller. He's got a high assist rate. He turns the ball over kind of a normal amount. I think this is going to be a matchup for Noah Fernandes. They're about the same size. I think that, Fernandes can be really disruptive. I didn't quite understand why he was on Terrence Shannon at all in that game on Saturday. Obviously, huge size differential there, about 6-7 inches. But I think that Fernandes has an opportunity here to be very disruptive on the defensive end. Rutgers has an opportunity to run in transition in this game. Three guys really that you have to worry about is Hunter Salas, 6'5" guard, Cameron Hildreth, 6'4" guard, and then Andrew Carr, 6'10", kind of a stretch 4 type. They're all shooting the lights out for this season. Salas, Hildreth, and Carr are all shooting better than between 54 and 56% from 2-point range. They can, they're good shooters. They do take mid-range and get to the rim. And then 3-point range. Salas is 44% from 3. Hildreth's 43%. Carr is 36%. Carr is going to be a problem. He's just different. I think Wolffolk, I would think, would guard him because he wants to be outside. He wants to play in the perimeter. And I think if you're Rutgers, you don't want Cliff outside as you want him defending the rim and there for the reboundings. They do have Zach Keller, who's big as well. He's 6'10". He's more of a traditional big. So if they're both on the floor, I think it makes sense to have Wolf obviously cover Carr. But it's going to be interesting to see how they defend them. I think that keeping them off the glass, like I said, they're not a strong rebounding team. Wake Forest, offensive rebounding, they're 294th nationally with just under a 25% offensive rebounding rate. That's not particularly good. Rutgers has not been good in keeping teams off the offensive glass. We know this. They've not been a good rebounding team in general. So this is I think a little bit of a gut check game for this team. They have to rebound better. The wings in this game, this is a big game for Andre Hyatt, just from a leadership perspective. I'm not even meaning from a scoring perspective, but from a defensive standpoint, you have to imagine he's going to defend either Salas or Hildreth, probably Salas. And he's got to be able to hold his ground. I think Austin Williams is a guy you're going to see on Hildreth, and they should get a lot of run. Derek Simpson's a guy that, you hope is a little more assertive offensively in this game. He can also, I think he could either defend Hildreth or Miller. We'll see what happens there. But I think the press, of course, that's a big part of this identity for Rutgers, and they need to be effective in the press. I think, they could throw a wrinkle. They did a little bit against Illinois, moving Woolfolk to the front of the press. I think when Mag ultimately does return, whether that's tomorrow or not, him at the front of the press could cause some problems for teams. They're going to want to trap them as early as they can. But I think speeding Wake up, is something they're going to want to do. They don't play particularly fast pace offensively. They're 228th in terms of possession length, and they're below the Division I average. So I think offensively, Rutgers can't fall into the trap they did against Illinois. Wake, is not as strong defensively whatsoever as Illinois, but they will try to get teams into isolation. Rutgers has to, if they're going to attack the rim, yes, if it's there, get to the hole. But I think, looking for the perimeter more, this is Hyatt, this is Griffiths, even Austin Williams at times, looking to kick out. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to take, kick out threes. It could be then another ball reversal, and you get Wake to swing, to have to move position. I think if they really work it in the half court, and they're able to have a focus and make it a priority in terms of ball reversals, not letting the ball stick, not getting caught into dribble, drive, shoot. They need to make opportunities for themselves in the half court. But part of that is going to be their ability to run in transition, whether it be off turnovers, I think rebounding, if they can have, and that's part of why, they weren't able to run as much against Illinois. They weren't getting rebounds. And it wasn't just about turnovers. They forced 17 turnovers, but they weren't really ever able to run on defensive rebounds. So that is why it's so important to get, have a presence on the glass. And I think that that's going to be something they've worked on a lot, I think, and make a priority in this game is attacking the glass and really keeping Wake Forest to as many one shot possessions as possible because they shoot a high percentage. So the more second chances you give them, they're going to make shots. I mean, Wake Forest is shooting 54% from 2-point range. That's 58th best in the country. 36% from three, that's 88th. And then from the free throw line, I mean, they're 12th best in the country, 80%. So Rutgers has to defend without fouling. They have to bring in aggressiveness without being, reckless in terms of how they defend. It's going to be, a different officiating crew. So that could be an adjustment early on. I think just their poise, their togetherness, their ability to adapt on the road, and stay focused. And again, I think a problem on Saturday was that their offense was struggling. They were missing shots, and it impacted their defense. They can't allow that to happen on Wednesday. I do think it's really important. It's easy to say, and it's kind of cliche, but I think in this game it is very important for them to start well. I think they need to see the ball go in the rim a little bit. They need some confidence. They need to build on their confidence in this game. And that's where the leaders come in as well. If they do miss some shots early, they can't sulk. They can't lose focus of the game plan. And they have to share the basketball. And this is a game I can see J Mike, and he's going back, going back down south. He's not from North Carolina, but this is a game that I think he could pose problems for Wake with his speed. He's got to be under control going to the basket. If he can penetrate both in transition and in the half court, he could pose some problems for them and find some open looks. I think Cliff, this is an opportunity to adjust, I think, a little bit in terms of how they utilize him. I think, I've said it like a broken record, but just in terms of, of high ball screens, but also just in terms of movement, even Wolf's an elite screener. Let's screen more for Cliff on the baseline, on the block, whatever it may be. I think getting him in motion more and having the guards look for him in the lob passes, whether it's isolation or whether it's on the move, whether it's in transition. I think, Cliff getting him going early is important, but not to the point where it becomes a detriment by force feeding him to the point where it takes other guys out of the offense. So I think that happened on Saturday as well. Other things just in terms of statistically that's interesting in terms of matchups. Rutgers does force a lot of turnovers. It's still sixth nationally, 25% turnover rate. Wake doesn't turn it over a ton. They're at right under 16%, which is 79th. In terms of defense, Wake does not turn opponents over at all. They're 258th. Rutgers done okay, 16%, 100%, 101 in terms of defensive turnover rate. They are getting in the line at a high rate, 43% in terms of free throw attempts versus field goals. That's 33rd best nationally. And in terms of Wake also is, not fouling a lot. So creating contact, finishing through contact offensively is going to be something that you hope Rutgers can do. Austin Williams is pretty good at that in his career. And you just want to see this team have a more cohesive approach and play with a little fire, winning those 50-50 balls. Doing the little things that they need to do to win on the road. This is a great opportunity to earn their first quality win of the season, and to do it on the road would be certainly a resume boost. But listen, it's December. You take one game at a time. But this is a game. This is a week that we could look back on and say this is when things started to pick up for this team, and this is a resume building opportunity this week, both on the road at Wake Forest and Seton Hall. Just looking for any other statistical kind of things of note. We know Rutgers has shot pretty poorly, but I think this could be a get healthy game. I'd like to see Gavin Griffiths used earlier. Will Pike shake up the starting lineup? I don't know. He doesn't typically do that, but I think how he handles the rotation, particularly in the second half, based off the first half, is going to be interesting to see. I think that, this is a game that you have to approach with some urgency. And I think that, if guys aren't performing at a certain way early on, you might need to just shorten the rotation in that second half. But we'll see. It's also going to depend on matchups and foul trouble and all that. Rutgers is going to have to stay out of foul trouble. A little bit concerned in that regard. And obviously if Mag does play, that changes things as well with the rotation. So a lot of variables in this game, some unknowns. I mean, this team is still, getting their legs together, getting, their cohesiveness as a team. And could be a really big night. I don't know if you've heard about this. There's some, no, I'm not good at making a joke, but Dylan Harper is announcing his college decision, 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday. And obviously I've been saying for months that, it's been trending Rutgers, and I think there's reason to be confident that it will end that way. And we'll see how his announcement goes. But, a little bit before tip-off on Wednesday, it could be a really, really, I mean, it's going to be, listen, if it goes that way, it's a tremendous day and night for Rutgers no matter what. But obviously you'd like to see them follow that up with a big road win against an ACC opponent. It would be a, high major victory, and one that can really, I think, kind of kickstart this season for this team. ahead of a major test and big rivalry game on Saturday. We saw what happened last year. Rutgers went on the road and lost that controversial Ohio State game with that buzzer beater that never should have counted. And it really impacted their performance in that gutting 2-point loss in which they had just a terrible offensive performance against Seton Hall last year. So they're looking for payback there as well. So there's a lot on the line this week. I think this is where leadership's going to come in for this team and just getting back to the basics of defense and rebounding. The offense has to click at some point, and they need to start hitting shots. And they can't lose their confidence if they start off slow. But this is a team, Wake Forest, that I think if they show some commitment on the offensive end in terms of sharing the basketball, in terms of really working to create better shot opportunities, that they'll be there and that they can knock some shots down. So we'll see what happens. Thank you for listening to this preview, watching this preview. I have plenty more coming up this week with the podcast. We have some kind of day streak going on right now. We're definitely in double digits. I haven't checked. Maybe you have, but appreciate everybody that's listening and watching. And I want to hear once again at the Scarlet Faithful.